Hi Algebra students, this is Kim Breeden at Minnesota Online High School. In this video, we're going to learn two different methods to divide polynomials. We're going to start with a table method. I've written down some general steps, but I think they're easiest to learn just by doing. If you're a person who likes steps to look back on, you might want to pause this and put them in your notes. Otherwise, this is also in your assignment. I'm going to show you how to divide 2x cubed plus 2x squared minus 33x plus 35, all divided by 2x squared minus 8x plus 7. We're going to be using a table method. So the first thing you need to do is make a table. The number of rows can be figured out by looking at the biggest exponent, which in this case is a 2, and then you're going to do 2 extra rows, one for the constant and one so we have our working room above. The number of columns is going to vary, so just leave yourself some extra room. So I'm going to start by putting 2x squared minus 8x plus 7 down the side. When you do this, make sure you pay attention to the signs. So I was subtracting 8x, so I would write that as a negative 8x. Also, if we skip over any values of the exponents, we have to put a 0 there. So for example, if I had an x cubed, but not an x squared, I would need to make a row for the x squared that said 0x squared. Okay, now we're going to start to fill in the table. The first square will always be the first term of what we're dividing. So right here, I am going to put in 2x cubed. Now what I need to figure out is what would I multiply by 2x squared to get 2x cubed? You might be able to do this in your head, or you might need to write it down as a division problem. So I need 2x cubed divided by 2x squared. Well, those 2's cancel out. X cubed divided by x squared. Well, that's just 1x. So across the top, I'm going to put 1x in that column header. 1x is going to be the first term of my answer. But now I'm going to fill in the rest of that first column. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the row and the column. So the next spot will be 1x times negative 8x. That's going to give me negative 8x squared. Keep moving down. Then I'm going to take 1x times 7. That's going to give me 7x. So I filled in the first column. What I found so far is if my answer was just 1x times what I'm dividing by, I would get that so far. Now that was not my original problem. Remember, my original problem is 2x cubed plus 2x squared. Now you'll notice I don't have 2x squared. Based on that first column, my x squared term is negative 8x squared. Again, I want 2x squared. And that's going to be a combining. You're always going to combine the two cells that are kind of up and to the right. So those two combined, I need to equal a total of 2x squared. So when I'm looking for that blank square, what I'm looking for is I need negative 8x squared plus blank to equal 2x squared. Again, you might be able to do this in your head. Otherwise, we're going to solve for that unknown. So this box must be 2x squared plus 8x squared. So that must be 10x squared. So the question is, what would I multiply this first row by, 2x squared, to get the answer of 10x squared? Just like our first step before, we're going to divide. 10x squared divided by 2x squared, well, that equals 5. So that means I must have multiplied by 5 to get that value. Now what we're going to do is multiply that column by each row again. So 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. x. 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, and we're going to check to see if this worked out. Again, we're looking at our squares that are up and to the right. 7x plus negative 40x, that gives us negative 33x. That's what my original problem was. And then my last term was 35. That is the end of my original problem. If that wasn't the end value, we would end up having a remainder. So the final answer is the top row of these columns. So my final answer is 1x plus 5. So 2x cubed plus 2x squared minus 33x plus 35 divided by 2x squared minus 8x plus 7 is 1x plus 5. Typically, your answers are going to be binomials or maybe even longer polynomials. Your worksheet will walk you through these steps. There are also many other videos online. Watching more examples can be helpful. I don't like to do too many examples because I know some students really don't like long videos. Now let's look at a different method. Our next method is long division. And in order to do this, think about how you learned how to divide, for example, a 4-digit number by a 2-digit number. A lot of this is going to use the same process. So you might want to take a moment and just review a long division problem using only numbers. Again, here are the steps. You can look back at them and write them down. They are also on your worksheet, but we're going to jump right into a problem. So this problem is 15x cubed minus 18x squared minus 19x plus 4, all divided by 5x plus 4. Now, I set this up again as a table just because in a Word document, that's a lot easier to type. If you're writing this out by hand, that's fine as well. So you're going to make your division symbol. Inside is going to be what you are dividing, so that top number. Outside is what you're dividing by. Okay, we start by just looking at the first term of each, both what we're dividing and what we're dividing by. So I have 15x cubed. I'm dividing by 5x. I want to figure out the biggest number that can go in there. So 3 times 5 would give us 15. X times x squared would give us x cubed. So up on the top, I'm going to write 3x squared. Now, if you remember from long division, we then take that 3x squared and we're going to multiply it by that term to fill in what we're subtracting at the bottom. Again, you might be good at doing this in your head. If not, you can write out your work. We are multiplying 3x squared by the entire thing, 5x plus 4. So we're distributing. That gives us 15x to the third. Then multiply the 3x squared by the 4. So plus 12x squared. We're going to put that up in our problem and, whoops, I dropped my cube, making sure that we line up our like terms using the same variables and exponents. Then in long division, we now subtract those. So 15x cubed minus 15x cubed, well, that's 0. Then 18x squared minus 12x squared. Remember, I'm subtracting that whole thing. That's going to give me negative 30x squared. So that's going to go in that next box. And then in long division, we drop down that next term. So that's going to be minus 19x. So now we're going to look at how many times 5x goes into negative 30x squared. Okay, so 5 times negative 6 would give me negative 30, and I'm going to need an x. So up in the top, I'm going to write negative 6x. Then we take the negative 6x, and again, we're going to multiply it by our whole divisor, 5x plus 4. So negative 6 times 5x is negative 30x squared. Negative 6x times 4 is negative 24x. So long division says we're going to subtract those. So when I'm subtracting that, remember subtracting a negative is adding. So I'm going to go ahead and make those both into addition, subtracting a negative. So negative 30x squared plus 30x squared is 0. Negative 19x plus 24x, that gives us 5x. Then we're going to drop down that plus 4. So 5x plus 4 divided by 5x plus 4 is 1. Then again, I'm going to take my factor of 1. I'm going to multiply it by 5x plus 4. We go ahead and subtract that. 5x plus 4 minus 5x plus 4. Well, that is 0, so I have no remainder. Some problems you're going to end up with a remainder, and so you're going to have to write that part as a fraction, still as a division problem. But my answer now is the terms up here at the top. And notice I did shift them over. I had started in the wrong square. When you write your answer, always make sure you line up your correct terms. So my final answer is 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. Again, this does take some practice. Work through the steps slowly, reading the hints I give you. Also check out the extra videos that are in your book. Reach out with questions. You got this.